Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live in the studio, so get involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news from the back pages. We're going to go over all the news stories. But make sure, if you're not doing so already, you are subscribing to the channel. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. With your support, we can get there. There's loads of stories to go through this morning. There's a Jadon Sancho story. It just feels like Jadon Sancho's stories never end, even when he's at Chelsea, but we'll be getting into that. Plus, we'll have a bit of an update on a player using a different name or expanding on his name, however you want to say that. We'll get into all that. We'll get into some more anti-Glazer protest stuff as well, season ticket price stuff. Plus, we've got some transfer incomings. We'll be getting into all of that, so make sure you're hitting that like button. Loads of people in the chat already. Robert Tater, Mick Holohan, Masood Ghoul, Tyler Ward, Mark Griffiths. Sorry if I've missed anyone out, but we'll get into the story, starting with Ahmad. This story is doing the rounds on social media and obviously in the papers as well. We've got it here from the Metro. It says Amad Diallo, well, you've got the first bit wrong because he just goes by the name Ahmad now, doesn't he? Has dropped a hint that he's closing in on a return from injury, despite early reports suggesting he could miss the rest of the season. In a pretty bleak season so far for the Red Devils, Ahmad has been one of the few highlights, performing impressively. Yeah, but he's dropped this little hint on, is it Snapchat? I think we got the screenshot, there it is. So he posted a little bit of a, well, you can see a smiling emoji and an egg timer and obviously a picture of himself there. So people are sort of deconstructing that. What does that mean? Because obviously he's got a smiley face and egg timer. You'd think that he's indicating he's going to be back sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it seems a little bit odd to put in a smiley face on there and an egg timer indeed. It seems to be a bit of an update. Very difficult to get too into it and find out just what it is he's trying to say in terms of dates and times and all the rest of it. Initially, it was thought he'd missed the rest of the season. Perhaps the indication is that he could be back to play some part in it. If we could get Ahmad back for even the last few weeks of the season, that would be a bonus, wouldn't it? It's important we have a good end to the season, especially, I know there's lots of ifs and buts here, especially if we are involved in the last stages of the Europa League. If you can get Ahmad involved in that, that would be great. He's been one of our best players this season, certainly one of our most productive in terms of goals. We need him back. It's mad, innit? You know, we go back a year, he's barely getting in the team, but we do need him back in this side. So if he can get back and play his part, then that would be a big boost for Ruben Amorim. I want United, I know it sounds like an obvious statement, but United need to have a positive end to the season, man. We need to go into the summer and go into next season with our tails up a little bit, a bit of confidence, a little bit of belief there, not going on into the season or ending the season on a bit of a downer. And I think Ahmad could be crucial to that. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Glenn F in the chat. JB says, morning, Jay. Let's get Ahmad back ASAP. Abhinav Verma's in the chat. David Jackson says he might not mean he's back, though. It might not. It might, I mean, what does it mean? You'd think it means something, though, but it's very cryptic. But I doubt he's just put an egg timer and a smiley emoji just for the sake of it. You would feel that there's some indication there that he's going to be, you know, he's had some positive news or there is positive developments in terms of his rehab and his ability or his readiness to come back into the squad. The nuts and bolts of it, though, perhaps we can get into that when we hear from the manager. We're going to hear from the manager, I suspect, before the Nottingham Forest game. So that could be one for Ruben Amorim to be asked, you know, is there any update on Ahmad? He might say there isn't. He might say we don't know. He's still looking towards the end of the season or the end of the season. But hopefully, fingers crossed. Loads of people in the chat as well. Maurice Marshall says, let's not rush him back. Don't need him to rush back and pull a Luke Shaw. Yeah, you got to get the balance right, haven't you? You want him back as soon as possible, but you don't want him coming back too soon. We saw that, didn't we, after Lisandro Martinez's first injury, I think it was, at United. It felt like we brought him back a little bit too soon, and he wasn't right, was he? Do you remember that Wolves game, the opening day of the season? Was it Cunha just kept running past him like he wasn't there? And I think he got subbed after 45 minutes. He didn't look right, and then a few weeks later, he was injured again. So you do have to take precautions with a player like Ahmad. And let's not forget as well, it's easy to just almost not realise that Ahmad went from barely playing to playing almost every minute. That takes its toll on your body, doesn't it? If you've been a player who's been in and out of the side, in and out of the squad, under Erik ten Hag last season, he was in and around the squad. Obviously, he scored that massive goal against Liverpool, had a couple of other good performances as well. You look at the Newcastle game, I thought he did well in the semi-final, extra time in the semi-final against Coventry when he came on, was moved into midfield. But he didn't play a huge part last season. He wasn't getting loads of games and loads of minutes. I think he only played about was it about a dozen games in total, or something around that. This season, however, he's been thrown in, and after the initial sort of in and out of the team sort of way of doing things under Erik ten Hag with him, where he was like, yeah, he was in for a bit, then he was out, and it sounded like Erik ten Hag still wasn't decided on him. Ruud van Nistelrooy comes in and says, like, basically, you're my guy, throws him straight in. Ruben Amorim's kind of carried on with that. He's played at wing back, he's obviously played in the 10 as well, but he's been getting lots of minutes. Now he's got this injury. So you've got to remember his body's getting used to the amount of games he's been playing, because this isn't someone who's, I know he's 22, but he's not someone like Garnacho, for example, who's played loads of minutes by the age of 20. I think Kobbie Mainoo at age 18, now 19, I know he's injured, but was playing a lot. Ahmad wasn't playing a lot. He went on loan, obviously, to Rangers, had another loan to Sunderland, where he did play a lot, but then came back to United and had that sort of year where he was just in and around the squad. So that might take its toll as well. Elvis Fortune says, Jay, do you think Greenwood would fit in this system? I don't want to avoid the question because it's worth answering. Maybe. I don't know. I think if Greenwood was in this system, he would have played as a striker rather than as one of the 10s. But the obvious answer is it doesn't matter, because he isn't a Manchester United player. We all know why he's not a Manchester United player. There's talk of thinking of him moving maybe on from Marseille, maybe United getting a few quid for that. But yeah, whether Mason Greenwood would have fit in this system is almost irrelevant. There's nothing wrong with a hypothetical question, but we know he's not going to be playing in this system, so we move on. Sorry, I'm just having a look here. Thomas Mitchell says, I think he could be back end of April or start of May. That would be quite good, wouldn't it? Getting back for the final sort of furlong in the Premier League. Getting back if we're in the Europa League final, Europa League semis. That'd be great. JB says, on Luke Shaw, how many games has he actually played this season, given he hardly played last season, got fit for England, then had been crocked ever since? It's utterly farcical. Yeah, he upset a lot of people, didn't he? Luke Shaw, I mean, Adam McCall was one of them, with the fact that he went to the Euros with England when he'd not played. I think February was the last time he started a game for Manchester United. So he hadn't played for United for months. Goes to the Euros and isn't fit, which is a strange one for me. But Gareth Southgate obviously thought he was a player that could contribute despite not being fully fit. Plays in, the quarters or the semis, I think it was, in the final. Plays in the last stages, forgive me if I'm misremembering, of the Euros for England. And then picks up another injury. Not with England, but in pre-season or in training or whatever, and isn't available for the start of the season. Then when he does come back, he's got another injury. I think people have looked at it and gone, well, you were fit enough to go to the Euros and play for England, yet you're not fit enough to play for Manchester United, or maybe you shouldn't have gone to the Euros because you should have focused on playing and getting yourself fit for Manchester United. I do have a bit of sympathy with Luke Shaw when it comes to going to the Euros with England. What is he, 28, 29? That was probably his last chance to go to a major tournament. Not definitely. You can still go to major tournaments when you're 32, whatever, or 30. But that might have been his last opportunity. I don't really blame footballers for trying to take that. I don't. I think it is a short career. Tournaments only come round every couple of years, don't they? You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get picked in the next squad or if you're going to be fit for the next squad. If he's got that opportunity to go and play for England, I'm not going to hold it against him too much. I think Luke Shaw's just had injury issues regardless of whether he's been away with England or not. If you look at the sort of the last 5 or 6 seasons, I think he's missed over half the games, I think it is, which is just unsustainable, isn't it? And it's a shame because when he's fit, he's a fantastic footballer, but he's never fit. You look at it, and I was thinking about this. I didn't watch the full England game last night. I saw Reece James's goal. Now, Reece James is someone who's had horrendous injury problems over the last 18 months, 2 years, whatever it's been. Missed loads of games, not really looked like he's, ever going to get back to full fitness at some point. You just thought, what's going on with Reece James? Is his career going to stagnate, or is it going to, is he not going to achieve what a player of his talent should achieve? However, he comes back, starts playing well again for Chelsea, gets into the England squad, gets into the team, and he's now banging in free kicks, and everyone's like, oh, well, he's a great player. So, it was worth the wait or whatever. With Luke Shaw, you do have to wonder whether it's going to have that same happy ending. Also, Reece James is a lot younger. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Hit that like button, please, people. Bob Ralph says, morning, Jay. Akash K says, fun fact for you. Luke Shaw last United game was Wolves away last season. Shake my head. That says a lot, that, doesn't it? Like, Wolves away last season was his last United game. Hang on a minute. That's not true. He's played this season. He got injured this season. So, yeah. Does that mean your last start? I think you might even then I don't think is that right? Was it Wolves away? I think it means the last start might have been Wolves away last season, which does kind of make sense. But yeah, he has played this season because I was at Old Trafford when he came on. I can't remember the game. Get involved in the chat in the comments, let me know what game it was, because my memory is shocking. But he came on, and then there was another injury issue. Didn't he do a statement or a post on Instagram saying, like, he's got another injury? It's a He
played against
Everton. That was it. He played against Everton the 4-0 at home under Ruben Amorim. So he has played under Ruben Amorim, but then he got another injury. So he's not played much. I'm not going to pretend. It has been a bit of a nightmare for him. And I do feel sorry for Luke Shaw. And I know people don't because he went away with England and all the rest of it. But if you look at his career at United, that initial injury he got many, many years ago against PSV, wasn't it, in the Champions League. He came back from that, and I think he played some of his best football after that injury a couple of years later. But in fits and starts, he had one really good season, I think, under Ten Hag. Other than that, though, he's not really had a full season where you think, yeah, Luke Shaw's someone you can rely on. And it's a shame because he's a talented footballer. But hopefully Ahmad and Luke Shaw, because we could do with him, will be back before the end of the season. If we hear any updates on either of those two players, we will keep you posted. Maybe Ahmad will give us another update on his social media, or maybe the manager will be able to shed a little bit more light on just what that Snapchat post meant, if it meant anything at all. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho, or Jason Sanchez. See this here in Sky, on Sky Sports website. It says Chelsea to sign Sancho despite $5 million escape clause from Man United deal. Now, we had this story yesterday. We kind of give you this update, but this has been posted again today. So I just want to get into the Jadon Sancho latest, if you will. So Jadon Sancho, it emerged a few weeks ago that there was this sort of clause in his contract when he'd signed for Chelsea. There was a sort of get-out clause where Chelsea could pay United a certain amount not to sign him, because the deal initially was he goes to Chelsea on loan to the end of the season, £25 million obligation to buy him. The only way out of that was if Chelsea finished, I think, below 14th in the Premier League, which just wasn't going to happen. They've done okay. They've done quite well, haven't they, under Enzo Maresca? They weren't going to finish under 14th, below 14, sorry. So it looked like United were going to get the 25 million, and every sort of discussion we've had about outgoings in the summer and what money's coming in and what money we've got to spend. Every time we spoke about it on the channel, we've gone, well, we've got 25 million coming in from Chelsea, hopefully a bit more from Villa for Marcus Rashford and Betis maybe for Sancho, whatever, but for Anthony, sorry. But we've always thought we've got that 25 million from Chelsea. However, this clause was sort of revealed. And then this week, David Ornstein, and then he was followed by a load of others, said how much it would be. At first, we knew there was going to be a fee that Chelsea could pay to get out of it. We didn't know how much it was. Ornstein announced it was £5 million. People looking at it going, Jadon Sancho hasn't scored, or I think he's got one assist in one goal involvement, if I can broaden it. One goal involvement in his last 14 games in the Premier League, whatever. Hasn't been playing well for Chelsea at all. People looking at it going, oh, maybe actually Chelsea would be better off just paying the £5 million not to take him, especially when you look at his wages and the fact he's not really doing much. However, Sky are saying Chelsea expected or still expected to sign Jadon Sancho permanently in the summer, despite the emergence of a get-out clause existing in the deal to sign him from Manchester United. United would be due a £5 million penalty payment from Chelsea should the London club wish to get out of the £25 million obligation included in his ongoing season-long deal. So there was some hints there, maybe Chelsea are going to go, actually, but according to Sky, that isn't the case. Sky are saying that Chelsea will pay the £25 million. They're not going to pay £5 million just to not sign him. Now, we were talking about this with Mark Critchley and Ronaldo Brown on the Paddock podcast yesterday, and Ronnie, I think, was making a point. Look, they pay £5 million, they get nothing. They're just wasting £5 million. If they pay £25 million, they still get Jadon Sancho. He's still a talented footballer. Now, he's not having a good spell of it, but there might be enough there for him to think, look, it's better to pay £25 million and get something than £5 million and get literally nothing. So, from that point of view, you can understand why Chelsea would be, say, keen, but would want to pay the £25 million to keep Jadon Sancho rather than paying £5 million for nothing. There is a slight twist in this, though. There's a few stories doing the rounds on social media just lately. I think we've got it from MUFC, MBP here, but I've seen a lot of people tweeting out this. It says Jadon Sancho has submitted a transfer request to his management to move to Borussia Dortmund again. Now, apparently this has come from Bild in Germany. Now, we'll have to get into this, find out a little bit more of this, because I just saw this just before we started, so we went live. So we need to sort of get this stood up a little bit more. But Bild are quite reliable when it comes to German news, and they're saying that there could be a way, or Jadon Sancho's looking for a way to get back to Germany, to get back to Dortmund. Now, we know Jadon Sancho's best football has always been at Dortmund. When United first signed him from Dortmund, he had a fantastic season, didn't he, that last season before he left Dortmund? I think was it basically about 36 goal involvements in 39 games or whatever. Practically a goal involvement every game. And I mean, those are sort of ridiculous numbers, aren't they? Then, when it all went a bit south, a bit wrong at Manchester United, he moved back to Dortmund and he did quite well. I mean, everyone focuses, and I get why. He got to the Champions League final, had that fantastic performance in the semi-final first leg against Paris Saint-Germain. On the whole, I don't think he smashed it at Dortmund in the way some people say he did. If you look at the number of games he played and how effective he was in those games, there was quite a few games where he wasn't really at it. But on the whole, you'd say, look, you got to a Champions League final. That can't be sniffed at. It's a successful loan spell. Not successful enough, though, for Dortmund to come in for him in the summer. Chelsea did. He's gone to Chelsea. Now we'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with this one. It looks at the minute as though the most likely situation or the most likely destination for him is going to be staying at Stamford Bridge. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat. Andrew Money, Jay, good to see you. Good to see you. Elvis Fortune says, Mr. Freedom, Jadon Sancho. He annoyed a lot of United fans, didn't he, when he replied to a post about Marcus Rashford at Villa with the word freedom. And I think that sort of emoji. And people got annoyed at that because it looked like he was throwing a bit of shade at Manchester United, having a almost needless dig at United about freedom, like he was some sort of prisoner. I mean, look, we saw what went on when he left Manchester United, or when he fell out with Erik ten Hag. The social media post where he said he'd been made a scapegoat didn't go down very well. I thought it was a bit of an overreaction when Erik ten Hag was asked about Jadon Sancho and why he wasn't picked for the Arsenal game, and he sort of said about his application in training or his lack of it. I didn't think it was that harsh. I didn't think it warranted the response that Jadon Sancho gave. I thought he could have just pulled his socks up, got on with it in training, got himself back into the team. You may disagree. However, he eventually does get a move, first to Dortmund, then he goes to Chelsea. Now, he's not really doing much where I'm looking at him going, we're missing Jadon Sancho. Some people may argue he could fit in one of those 10 roles in Manchester United side, but I just don't think they've got the same Jadon Sancho that we saw at Dortmund at all. Harry Potter says, Ahmad back soon has made my day. We hope so. We don't know how soon. We'll have to wait and see. Wazza says, Ahmad, our best player by far. Let's talk about Liam Delap. There's a little story here about Liam Delap. United have been linked with him. The Evening News says United have been handed an update on Liam Delap amid reports linking him with the summer move to Ruben Amorim's team. The former Manchester City striker, get that right, has been in impressive form for Ipswich this season. Delap has scored 10 goals so far for a side that sits 18th in the Premier League table. I think the update here is that it is claimed, that you can see at the bottom of that City included a 40 million buyback clause in the deal, which is thought to be the benchmark other clubs are using to gauge how much Ipswich may demand if United decide to pursue Delap. It is anticipated that Chelsea would be their main rivals. Let me know in the chat and the comments what you think about Liam Delap. I'm a little bit wary of going for another striker who's relatively unproven. I know he's got Premier League experience and he's got 10 goals this season, in a team that are absolutely struggling at the bottom end of the table. And I do like him when I watch him play. I think he's a good player. He's a right handful. But I keep saying it. I'd rather we got in someone who had a little bit more experience, a little bit more pedigree. I don't want all our strikers to be relatively young and inexperienced. You've got Rasmus Højlund. I know he's had 2 seasons in the Premier League. So you've got that. You've got Joshua Zirkzee, obviously he's had 1 season in the Premier League, plus there's the idea that he's not really a striker, he's a 9.5. Chido Obi is a child. So I just feel like we could do with someone who, is a little bit older, who maybe was alive in the 90s. Is that too much to ask? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Let me know. Do you want to see us get Liam Delap? Do you think he could be the answer to our striking problems? Do you think that's the way to go if you haven't got loads of money to spend? If you haven't got loads of money to spend on a striker, you go one way or the other, don't you? You get an experienced striker who's perhaps past their best, an Edinson Cavani type signing, or you get a youngster who's maybe on the cusp of hitting the dizzy heights like Liam Delap. The issue I think you had with Rasmus Højlund, and I like Højlund, I'm not trying to dig him out, but Rasmus Højlund was a striker who was sort of just starting off in his career or just getting going, and we paid the kind of money you pay for someone who's already made it. We paid 70 odd million quid for a striker who, I won't say the jury was out, but you're still waiting to see if he was going to become that player we hoped he was going to become. And it felt like we overpaid there a little bit. Now, after that first season, 16 goals in all competitions, I thought is a very good return for a young striker. This season, however, he has struggled. Yes, don't want to give him too much stick. He scored recently against Leicester, a very well-taken goal too, but he went 21 games without a goal. That's the definition of struggling when you're a striker. So I just feel we need someone to come in with a bit of experience, rather than having all these strikers who potentially could reach the dizzy heights, but potentially couldn't. Let me know what you think. Matthew Baker said, striker with potential, thrown at the deep end. David Jackson says 30 million max for Rasmus. I think had Rasmus Højlund even been like 40 million, I don't think there'd be quite the same narrative around him. I think the 70 odd million, 72 million was it, hurt him a little bit, because then people are going, well, 72 million quid. People get silly comparisons as well. People like, well, that's more than what City paid for Haaland. Well, it isn't. City paid about 250 million all in for Haaland, with signing on fees and bonuses and all the rest of it. But the actual get out, the buyout clause wasn't that much. So I just feel, and also, just because you're not the levels of Erling Haaland doesn't mean you're not a good player. So these sort of narratives build, don't they? And it doesn't help him at all. CTB's not having it. Says the story is BS. We ain't buying Delap. So he's having none of it. Dan Fenton says no for Delap. Jonathan David, 25, 20 plus goals, and a really good striker on a free as well. Makes it all good. Hope we get him. Yeah, Jonathan David, I think he scored the other night, didn't he? It was against USA. Well, certainly I got sent a link of him scoring. I don't know how recent it was. Yeah, from Lille, banging in the goals. I think he's consistently hit over 20 goals a season, as has been pointed out there by Dan. I'm warming to that idea because it's a free transfer. The only issue there is what are his wages going to be like, and is he going to want to come to a club if we're not in the Champions League? Is that going to be, enough of a carrot for him, just the wages? And again, if Ineos are doing this thing where we're not going to pay extortionate amounts when it comes to wages, can we get him? Let us know what you think. Yeah, loads of people saying, Dan Fenech says, there's a player in Rasmus, but he needs to be an understudy for a couple of seasons. Maybe that could be an option. Glenn F says, we haven't got much money to spend and we have to pay 89 million for last year's transfers. I don't know if you saw that from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and he was pointing out, and I think a lot of people saw this as him having a dig at the likes of Casemiro and Højlund and Onana. I'm not sure he was as such. I think he was trying to point out the fact that, because when you watch that full interview, he sort of goes from one topic to another and he's a bit scattergun. But basically, United have signed a lot of these players, but we've signed them on deals where you pay off a bit each year. And he was making the point that this summer, United have still got to pay out 89 million quid for transfers we've already made, let alone bringing in new ones, which obviously scuppers your the amount you can spend this summer if you've already got to spend money on transfers you've already made. Also, I was speaking to Mark Critchler yesterday, and this has been well documented. I think I mentioned it in the Matt Slater article, a reference in the new stadium. United are about £300 million in debt when it comes to the credit card, the sort of transfers credit card, if you will, that we've spent on transfers. So it's not a great position that United find ourselves in when it comes to the amount of money we've got to spend or the lack of money we've got to spend. Plus, when you go in for strikers, they're always going to be the most expensive players out there. Anytime you want to sign a striker, any decent striker is going to be at least 40 million upwards, and then the sort of the ones who are, relatively young and banging in goals, you're going to be paying upwards of 70, 80 million. So it's a difficult position Manchester United find ourselves in. It really is, but this is where we're at. A couple more stories to run through before we go. There's a protest this weekend at FC United, and an anti-Glazer protest. The FC United Manchester and the 58 are staging a joint action on Saturday against 20 years of Glazer ownership of Manchester United. So in 2005, obviously FC United of Manchester started. That was a big response from Manchester United fans who were fed up. Well, not fed up because it only just happened, but were annoyed or fuming that United were going to be plunged into debt for the Glazer ownership. So they went and started their own club. You can't get much of a bigger protest than that, and fair play to everyone who's involved. Obviously, the 58, we've had them on the channel quite a few times, and we're going to have them on this week to tell us a little bit more about that. But it says the action will take place at 7th tier FC United's home game against Stockton on a weekend when United do not have a match. United play next week in it against Forest on Tuesday. This is this Saturday, I think. So you can get down there and get involved if you will. And like I say, we'll have a little bit more on that later on this week. Steve from the 1958 and possibly someone from FC United are going to come in and chat to us. We'll always give protest groups a platform. We are a United fan channel. It's an important message for the fans. So it'll be good to chat to the 58 and just find out the reasoning behind the joint protest. There's a ticket price update. Talking of protest, this could lead to more. Manchester United have confirmed they considered phasing the reduction to pensioner discount, but they felt offering 50% to some fans was no longer sustainable or fair. In previous years, pensioner season tickets would be discounted by 50%, but United announced prices for 25-26 last week and confirmed discounts would be reduced. It just feels like everything at the minute that's coming from Ineos is pretty grim. I get there's a means to an end. I understand all that. It's just when you're reading like ticket prices, the discounts not being implemented the same way as it was, and all the rest of it, and cuts and staff cuts. It does make grim reading. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. We are gonna have to be patient. I will call out bad decisions if I think they're bad decisions. I will criticise bad decisions if I think they're bad decisions. But there's a massive part of me that thinks, you know what, we'll wait and see where all this leads. However, seeing pensioners, getting charged more than they would be in the past isn't a good look. Whatever your opinion on that one. Just one more story as well. I'm gonna have a good go at this. Patrick Dorgu has sort of changed his name, or is going to be known by a different name. So he's now going to be, it's going to be altered. It's been altered on the Manchester United website. So Dorgu is now Patrick Chinazaekpere Dorgu on official club platforms. I don't know what I keep saying it because I keep saying it wrong, but he's had a bit of an update. We've seen a few players who've done that, where Chido Obi was originally Chido Obi Martin, and now he's just Chido Obi. Amad Diallo, I think, has dropped the Diallo, and now Patrick Dorgu is Patrick Chinazaekpere Dorgu on official club platforms. I think this is the requested the change out of respect for his heritage and religion. We all respect that, and we will do our best. If that's how he's referred to in commentary, I'm not sure. I think it might just be on the website and stuff like that, but we'll always refer to players how they want to be named. Going to be back later on today. We've got Nathan Salt coming in today from the Mail. Going to be chatting to him. Plus, Stephen Howson is going to be on the channel as well. We're going to be having a chat with him. So if you're not doing so already, please make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Go and check out some of the other videos we've got on the channel as well. There's loads of good stuff on there. Mark Critz, who's on, we've done a little bit of a look at what's happening with the stadium, all that other good stuff as well. I'm Jay Marty. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.